You know, how does one of history's most iconic leaders actually say goodbye? Today, we're going to walk through the final momentous journey of Moses, a man who spoke with God as he climbs one last mountain to see a future he built, but would never get to enter himself.
All right, so our story kicks off with an epic climb. And this isn't just any hill. It's the final peak of a 40-year journey, leading to this one last defining moment up on the mountain.
Let's start with verse 1. So in verse 1, Moses, at 120 years old, leaves the flat plains behind and makes this solitary ascent up Mount Nebo. And when he gets to the top, God himself basically becomes his personal tour guide, unveiling this absolutely breathtaking panorama. The first thing he sees, his eyes sweep across the land of Gilead, stretching all the way to Dan, the very first piece of the promised future laid out right before him.
Moving on to verse 2.
The view just keeps expanding. Moses' gaze pans across even more territories. You've got Naphtali, Ephraim, Manasseh, and then it sweeps all the way over the land of Judah until it hits the shimmering horizon of the Western Sea, which, of course, we know as the Mediterranean. I mean, he is literally seeing the entire breadth of the nation that is to come.
And then, verse 3.
Finally, his view shifts south, and he looks down into this lush green valley. And right there, completely unmistakable, is Jericho, the city of palm trees. You know, that detail is so specific, so vivid, it's designed to stick in your memory. A real, tangible goal, right there at his feet. Now for verse 4. So after this incredible, silent tour, God speaks, and he confirms the promise that was made generations ago to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is the land. Just imagine the weight of those words. The promise is real. But then comes that heartbreaking twist. I have let you see it, but you will not cross over. Wow. It's fulfillment and denial, all in a single breath. And that powerful moment on the mountain leads us to our next section, a servant's rest. The whole tone kind of changes here, shifting from the epic scale of nations to the incredibly intimate end of one man's life. Let's look at verse 5. Verse 5 puts it so simply. Right there on that mountain, having seen the promise fulfilled, Moses, the servant of the Lord, dies. Think about that. His ultimate title isn't king or conqueror, but servant. And just like that, the summit is empty, bathed in the quiet light of a setting sun. On to verse 6. But his story doesn't quite end with death. Verse 6 reveals this final, unique honor. And get this, God himself buries Moses in a hidden valley. And the text makes a point to say that to this very day, no one knows where his grave is. This mystery is so important, it prevents his tomb from becoming a shrine, making sure that devotion stays focused on God, not on the man. It's a final divine act, keeping his resting place a sacred secret forever.
All right, verse 7. 120 years old.
Now, you'd probably assume a man that age would be frail, right? But verse 7 tells a totally different story. And this is just astonishing. At 120, his eyesight was still perfect, and his natural strength, his vigor, it hadn't lessened at all. This wasn't a man fading away. He was in full possession of all his faculties right up to the very end. It's just a testament to a miraculous life.
Now for verse 8.
So, how did the people he led for 40 years react to this? Well, verse 8 tells us an entire nation mourns. For 30 full days, the people of Israel wept for Moses. And this wasn't just some formality, it was a deep, collective outpouring of grief for the leader who had defined their entire existence for 2 generations. But, life has to go on. And so we move from that period of mourning into the future. In our final section, the mantle passes. Let's look at verse 9. Verse 9 introduces the new leader. Joshua is ready to step up. And why is he ready? Well, the text says he is full of the spirit of wisdom, specifically because Moses had laid his hands on him. This was a formal public transfer of authority and blessing. The leadership passes seamlessly, and the people are ready to follow him. And the chapter, really the first 5 books of the Bible, ends with this incredibly powerful tribute. Verses 10 through 12 make these 3 definitive statements about Moses' legacy. First, no prophet like him has ever come again in Israel. Second, his relationship with God was completely unique. He knew the Lord face to face.
And third, the sheer scale of his signs and wonders was just unmatched. He really set the bar.
And that leaves us with this final thought. Moses dedicated his entire life to leading his people to a destination he himself was forbidden to enter. So the question his story really leaves for all of us is this: what does it mean to build a future you will never enter?